Okay, let's see. All right, I think we're good to go now. All right, ladies, sorry about that. I was trying to go live on YouTube and it was not cooperating with me. I actually tried to go live like a couple different times and it wasn't cooperating. So, I'm going to go to bed soon cuz it took me like a lot longer than I expected at all to get this off the ground tonight. Um, but I wanted to do this because I had to. So first of all, if you're on my email list, then you need to go ahead and um, check your inbox or your spam folders because I did send a newsletter out a little while ago with my take on Gabrielle Union issue, and I'm just not gonna talk about it publicly right now. But I did have some things that I wanted to say. And so if you're already on my mailing list, my newsletter went out and um, you probably have it in your inbox by now or your junk folder if you have not whitelisted um, my newsletters. So anyway, right now I want to talk about something because I do see that there's still a lot of resistance to what's going on right now. There's still a lot of denial about the shift that has happened and that is underway. And that's really unfortunate because, like I put in my comment, my title, hard head make a soft ass. So you don't want to listen, that's fine. But maybe a couple of folks will. I don't know. Um, so I made a post 2 days ago about um, a situation that recently happened. So, a woman that I strongly encouraged to go back into the office just got laid off. When they introduced the hybrid option, she fought tooth and nail to stay 100% remote. This lady she had one of the jobs at one of the big companies. She had a pretty nice title. She wasn't executive or anything, but she had a title, she had a nice role. And she already didn't have the best attitude. I saw that from day one. Um, and when the company started to say, hey, people are coming back into the office, she didn't want to go. She didn't want to be inconvenienced, and she made the argument that a lot of people made on my post the other day, which is, well, what is it that I can't do at home that they need me in the office for? And I tried to explain to her, first of all, if you are an employee, the employer does have the right to tell you where to work. They do have the right to make those stipulations. If you're a contractor or an independent contractor, they do not have that right. You need to know the law before you start getting all up in arms about why they asking me to do XYZ, because when you sign a full-time job agreement as a full-time employee, that's actually one of the definitions. That's one of the delineations between an actual employee and an independent contractor. Is that the person or the organization that hires you has the right to say where you should perform your duties. If you are an employee, they have that right. If you are an independent contractor, they do not have that right. So a lot of folks want to argue about, well, what they do and why they need me to come in. Well, they need you to come in because that's the agreement that you signed. So that's first things first. But second of all, um, I don't know how we. I do know how we got. It's called adaptation, and we human beings are very good at adaptation, which is a gift and can sometimes be a curse. Because no matter how wonderful things get, so no matter how bad things get, a lot of times humans can adapt to it. But the reverse is true, which is no matter how great things get, human beings can get used to it, and then they can get, you know, they start to take it for granted. So we went from a whole society of 5 days a week. You got to come into the office. You need to, do your thing. You need to come in here and do your work every day. To, okay, well, we got this big event that happened. Now everybody goes home full time. And now, instead of you having to come back home, come back in 5 days a week, you only have to come in 3 days a week. Okay, or 2 days a week, even, or every other week. And folks are acting like they cannot do that. And that is amazing to me. So the adaptation has, created a sense of entitlement in a lot of people. And now, where we are. Here's where we are. Now the tables are really turning. And it's getting more and more challenging for people to get work, get interviews, get callbacks. So let's read this article. If you guys can hear me, can you let me know? Can somebody let me know? Because I don't know who can hear me. Anyway, let me see. Pop out. Let me see who can hear me. Okay. Yeah, just let me know if you can hear me. Okay, so let's look at this article. 9 rounds of interviews and no call back. It's harder than ever to land a white-collar job. Hiring for the office set is slowing down and employers are getting picky again. Now, I don't like to do the I told you so thing, but last summer, I said, August of this past summer, I said, the tide is turning and you need to pay attention. I did a series of videos. 1 or 2 of them are still available on my YouTube channel. I'm going to re-release the other ones, but not yet. But I talked about this. I talked about the shift that was underway, meaning, look, play your cards right while things are in your favor. I said, look, now that you have the time, the flexibility, get your certifications up, get your skills up, start networking again. And some people listened, and some people didn't. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people argue with me because I said, hey, this is about to turn. This is not going to last forever. I'm telling you from somebody who was inside of this. I'm telling you from somebody with the inside scoop. Please pay attention. Okay, thanks, Zara. Please pay attention because it's not going to be like this forever. Get the skills, get a role somewhere, and sit down somewhere. Okay, well, a lot of folks don't want to do that. So anyway, let's read this. And the title of this again is 9 rounds of interviews and no call back. It's harder than ever to land a white collar job. When she applied for marketing jobs earlier this year, Megan Burr went through 8 interview rounds before getting rejected. Another company put her through 9, then never replied to her phone call, text, or 2 emails. Amid layoffs and hiring freezes, many employers have slowed down filling office jobs, from receptionists to CFO, executives and recruiters say. They're slow-walking candidates. Slow-walking means they're taking a long time to complete the interview and hiring process. So they're slow-walking candidates, piling on new requirements ranging from more years of experience to higher scores on technical tests to running prospective hires through additional rounds of interviews. Now, I have been through multiple rounds of interviews, 3 to 4. I think 4 was the absolute max. And 8 or 9 is just ridiculous. But anyway, so we're talking about this lady, Megan Burr. Burr, 41, has worked in marketing for a decade and searched for new jobs. Okay, y'all look at Megan. And then we're going to talk about that. In one case, Burr said she was perplexed during a 9th round interview when the woman conducting the interview said she was convinced Burr was able to do the job. The interviewer then asked, "But what else do you do?" "I'm like, what do you mean?" Burr remembers thinking. "I've easily spent 20 hours on a single interview process, said Burr, a divorced mother of 4 in Eugene, Oregon, who was laid off from her previous job in November. From a business perspective, I don't understand it. Okay. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about unspoken rules and things that are not fair. When you need to be extra competitive, you don't need to be given any signals that you might be on some other ish when you walk in the room. To walk into a company with a head of blue hair, I don't make the rules. With a head of blue hair, what do you think? I'm gonna ask y'all the question. Imagine that you are the hiring manager. You're trying to find somebody solid that's going to do a good job, is not going to have a bunch of drama, is not going to be on a silly ish. It's going to come in here and do some work and do a good job. And somebody with blue hair walks in the room. Do you think that you, as the hiring manager, do you think that you would have any second guesses about a person that comes to a professional interview for their job with blue hair? Now, Miss Thing is in Oregon, so I get it. You know, they do things quite differently over there. But when you are in a hyper competitive market, you gotta make some changes. So even if it's not fair, she need to do something with this hair. She does. Okay? I don't make the rules, but I wouldn't take any chances on being disqualified subconsciously, right? Because of my presentation. Okay? Anyway, after years of breakneck hiring during the COVID-19 pandemic, white-collar job seekers are feeling the whiplash. Job posting from real estate and finance to insurance and advertising have fallen by nearly 500,000 since the end of last year, federal data show. Employers seeking to fill white-collar roles report that it's taking them an average of 11 weeks to hire, up from 7 weeks in 2021. During the upheaval of the pandemic, employers saw many job seekers apply for roles, listen, who were not truly serious about the work. And in a tight labor market, some wound up rushing to hire candidates who didn't ultimately prove to be a good fit. Everybody's being extra cautious, she says. A lot of companies have gotten burned. Okay. These days, 3 to 4 interview rounds are the norm for clients, she says, up from 1 or 2 in years past. In a quarter century of recruiting, Reisdorf says she's never seen employers moving as cautiously with new hires as they are now. So, do y'all remember when I shared an article about how a lot of organizations had concerns about hiring people, and they had all these emotional expectations of the organization? And one of the people said, "Can you just get your healing at home, please?" That is part of this as well. I really believe that one of the reasons that they're having these extensive interviews, I mean, it's ridiculous. I agree it's ridiculous, but that's just the climate that we're in now. But they're just trying to feel out a person. Like, are they solid? Are they like a stable person? A lot of people perform really well on that first interview, that introductory interview. They really shine. But then maybe that second one, they kind of waver. And then by that third or the panel interview, that's when you can really see it. Now, depending on how the org is structured, you might have to go through more interviews, because them dotted lines go all over the place right now, because companies are tightening the belt. And so people are going to be like, nope, I want to interview them too, because they're going to be working on my stuff, right? You have to impress a lot of people. Okay. The labor market has stayed strong overall. Employers added 253,000 jobs in April, with gains across sectors from healthcare to architecture to hospitality. Still, those figures mask that many white collar industries, including finance and professional and business services, have cut back hiring. And for many professionals, switching sectors is not always easy, especially now. Ladies, this is why you need to be in my project management certification accountability group. This is why y'all need to stop playing, stop putting it off. Some of y'all said, oh, last fall when I did the first one, y'all said y'all was going to come and do the spring one. And then a lot of people that said they were going to do the spring one didn't do the spring one. Now I'm doing a summer one. Summer one starts officially on the 3rd. We already did the introductory call. Starts on the 3rd. And now folks is like, oh, I'm going to do it in the fall. Okay. Well, as the market gets tighter and tighter and tighter, every time you wait to put another tool in your arsenal, this is what you're up against. It takes longer. You have more to deal with. You have a longer time from interview to an actual offer to an actual start date. And so I'm going to encourage you ladies, if y'all haven't and y'all been on the fence, y'all need to get in here. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, the labor market has stayed strong People looking for work say that in recent months, particularly as layoffs have swept industries ranging from tech to consumer goods to media, the feeling of competition has intensified. Back in November, when Reza Malayev says he was laid off from his $90,000 a year job by the mattress company Casper, the positions he was applying to showed 75 or 100 other applicants on LinkedIn, which offers the ability to see real-time snapshots of how many people have applied to job postings on its platform. By this spring, he was seeing more like 1,000 people applying for every job he was also going for, he said, with some positions attracting hundreds of applicants within minutes of being posted. Malayev, who graduated from New York University in 2020, still lives in the city. Okay, he applied for 6 jobs and had an offer from Casper within a month and a half, but this time the search has felt considerably harder. He landed a job as a field training coordinator with Lancome this spring after applying to 120 jobs and doing 30 interviews with 19 companies, going through as many as 5 interview rounds before being rejected. Okay, so being rejected is a part of the process of looking for a job, looking for a role. But in order to not have as many rejections and ensure that you can get a better salary when you get hired, you need extra skills. You need more skills. You need more skills. You need more flexibility as far as what you will do, where you will be location wise. And some of y'all need a better attitude, like the lady I talked about the other day. Having so many interview rounds necessitated copious preparations. One recruiter advised him to prepare enough separate anecdotes illustrating his past work experience that he wouldn't repeat himself in conversations with different interviewers at the same company. That's one of the things I do in my interview prep with y'all. I make you tell me your stories. And 9 times out of 10, the story does not add up. The story doesn't make sense. Or the story reflects that, there's some conflict resolution skills that are lacking. Like, ladies, y'all gotta please work on this stuff. Pay attention to what's going on and get serious. Some of y'all are like, oh, I need to make a change. I need to get another job. I need to make a move. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it next week. You need to do it now. You need to start doing things now. You need to start working on these things now. As recently as a year ago, employers were competing fiercely to hire talent, dangling 5-figure signing bonuses and offering remote work and other perks. At the same time, many companies relaxed their hiring criteria, desperate to get people in the door. So last year, was a good time to get in because, it was tight. But look, that is no longer the case. Y'all listen. Aline Lerner, the chief executive of Interviewing.io, a tech recruiting marketplace, says tech companies now only want candidates who score 15% higher during technical interview rounds than candidates were expected to at the start of 2022. The company runs practice interviews that test candidates on their technical capabilities, such as writing code, as well as their problem solving and communication abilities. Baby, let me tell you something. This is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be all about in the future. Problem solving and communication skills and your attitude. For y'all that went through my career alchemy program, y'all already know. I told y'all how to communicate even when you're mad. You know, what happens if you're triggered, what happens if you're unnecessarily triggered, what happens if you're justifiably triggered, and how to approach all that stuff, right? Because that's what they're going to be looking for now, even in the interviews. One candidate trying to solve a problem using a popular programming language without explaining the step-by-step process made the mock interviewer frustrated enough to inadvertently crush a glass of water in his hand, she said. Ultimately, the two got through the interview, and the interviewer gave the candidate constructive feedback. Later, listening to a recording of the conversation, she was amazed to hear the glass breaking and at how calmly the interview continued afterwards. That was a very random story. I don't know. She just wanted to tell somebody she frustrated them enough to make them break a glass, I guess. I don't know. So Johnny Taylor, CEO of SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management, says he regularly hears from companies that are raising the bar on applicants, including one large technology company that recently upped its college undergraduate GPA for applicants to 3.4 after lowering it at the height of the pandemic to 3.2. Others, he says, listen, are trying to screen more closely to ensure a good match for company culture. Company culture. That's them. Those are those buzzwords right there. Those are those. That's a tale right there. That's a luxury that you kind of didn't have when there were just so many openings, he said. In the mortgage and real estate sectors a year and a half ago, employers were willing to take on promising people with a year or two of experience. Now, though, the industry, hammered by high interest rates, is laying off staff. Gone are the $20,000 jumps in salary for underwriters and processors. The companies that continue to hire want people with more than 10 years experience and no job hopping along the way. Companies are really looking for the person that checks every single box. Well, that's ridiculous. To find somebody 10 years experience and no job hopping, that's not realistic. So therein lies where some companies are still not being realistic, and they're, putting out something that's, they're putting out a request that's not reasonable. And let me say this, they probably can find somebody who's been in the same job for 10 years, but they won't have the rounded out experience across the enterprise that the company would probably want, right? So there's a trade-off there, and I'm pretty sure that they will overlook somebody if they have 4 years, 10 years experience, but they had different roles within those 10 years that made them really competitive, that checks all the other boxes. If they're smart, they would take that person. Okay. For unemployed workers seeking white-collar roles, part of the challenge is simply standing out from the crowd. At AT&T, for example, the number of applications per job posting has nearly doubled. Oh, excuse me, ladies. For example, has nearly doubled from the same period last year. For white-collar openings, the figure has more than tripled. Hiring managers at AT&T are now often being presented with 3 to 5 potential choices, compared with 1 or 2 candidates when the labor market was tighter. The company has around 2,500 professional roles open this year, He says below the roughly 5,000 positions it filled in the two previous years. So AT&T has 2,500 professional roles open, but as somebody who had a contract with them, AT&T is huge. So 2,500 roles spread across the entire United States is not a lot of roles. I mean, it is for the company, but um, not as many as you would think. It's not like concentrated in one city, you know? We're not just opening up roles willy-nilly. We're being very cautious about how we open up roles. We've all got extra scrutiny. Let's go down here. With so many applicants vying for roles, recruiters say companies have more license to make demands of candidates. So this is why I'm telling y'all, if an organization is saying y'all need to come in for 2 to 3 days a week, just go into work. Like, unless you have another job offer in your hand and a start date, don't play this game right now. We are not in the economic climate for you to be playing these types of games with your livelihood. Now, look, if you single, you don't have any responsibilities, and you got a year's worth of savings, you go ahead and you fight them on that, not going in them 2 to 3 days. But everybody else, I would strongly encourage y'all, don't play this game right now. Because that lady who I said, I told her, I said, just go in those couple of days. Just go in those couple of days, do what you need to do, see if you can negotiate, one less day in a few months or something. Nope, she wanted that 100%. And when they said, okay, that's fine. Oh, you couldn't tell her nothing. Oh, just to let you know, they did agree that I could stay 100%. I say, I don't think that you should trust that judgment. I think that you should still just go ahead and go in when you can. Oh, Miss Thing didn't go. She never went. She never went in. And when they laid her off, it's tears and surprise. Well, you shouldn't be surprised if somebody's sitting right here and telling you, sis, don't do this. This is not a good idea. Right? So like I said, we're very good at winning battles and losing wars. We got a lot of real smart ass energy going on. And then when we get tagged, we want to sit here and boo-hoo and act like we ain't do nothing wrong, or we don't know what happened. No, we know what happened. Okay. There's such a saturation of people who've been laid off and can start immediately, often really skilled people, says Rachel, who began looking for new jobs last summer. You are competing with people from Facebook, Twitter, and Amazon. In one case, says Moore, a company she applied to emailed candidates saying it had received so much interest that it was requesting that candidates prepare content campaign strategies for the company to consider, even before an initial phone screening. Now, that is unacceptable. I would never recommend anybody do something like that. If they ask you to do something like that, you can say, I can send you an invoice, a consulting invoice. I mean, don't do that. Just withdraw I would just withdraw my application at that point. I'm like, why on earth would I invest that time, says Moore, who got a marketing job in March at another company. I think that was a smart move. Some say they've had enough. While job hunting earlier this year, Laura Meyer, who is based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, says that after one fourth round interview, a potential employer asked her to create a content strategy for all its distribution channels. She would have to present her work to a panel, discussing and debating afterwards. Y'all, that is insane. That's insane. But that's why you have to get your skills in order and go sit down somewhere and ride this thing out, or otherwise you're gonna be back out in these interview streets having these companies ask you for this crazy stuff. It was too much for an uncompensated assignment, she says, adding that it would have taken her at least 20 hours to do it properly. Well, she couldn't do it properly. You want to know why? There's no way you can create a content strategy for all distribution channels across an organization that you don't know anything about. You couldn't do it. Anyway, Meyer pulled out of the interview process and subsequently decided to strike out on her own as a freelance marketer. As many employers grow choosier in their hiring, unemployed Americans are spending more time out of work. Earlier this month, the number of people seeking ongoing unemployment benefits, known as continuing claims, was 1.8 million, up 40% from the half-century low it notched last fall. Signs indicate a frostier environment for white-collar workers in particular. The rate of workers in professional and business services quitting their jobs fell to 2.9% in March, down from 3.6% in the earlier period. If there's fewer opportunities for you to take a new job, you're going to be less likely to quit your old one, says Nick Bunker, an economist with jobs site Indeed. Job postings on Indeed have fallen 11% across the board this year. Leslie Crow, a partner at Bain Capital Ventures, who works with the 200 mostly tech companies in its portfolio to recruit talent, says that in the current economic climate, she's seeing companies make new demands. A year ago, amid fierce competition to hire, the IT infrastructure company she works with might have been happy to hire someone with a general consulting background to serve in an executive role. Now that they have a deeper talent pool to pick from, she says, she's seeing companies narrowing their focus to candidates who are steeped in their technical fields and able to speak their language. So this is the other thing, y'all. If there's a deeper talent pool to pick from, and you are not sure about the level of value that you're actually adding in an organization, you definitely want to tread lightly. So that's the question I ask a lot of women when, we're having these types of conversations about their job, because everybody thinks that they're doing a great job. Everybody thinks they're kicking ass in their job. And the question is, well, how do you know that? How do you know that you are adding value in your job? How do you know that you're adding the value that you say that you're adding? So once I start asking you a certain set of questions about your role, about your day-to-day functions, about how you interact with leadership, peers, subordinates, etc., okay, then we can probably get a good gauge. But everybody thinks that they do this bang-up job. But when things are more competitive, if you are not self-aware about where your growth opportunities are and where you really shine, you will go into interviews thinking that you are going to knock it out the park, or you're going to be operating in your own job, your current role, thinking that you're knocking it out the park. You don't know it. Nobody's going to really tell you, because nobody is allowed to tell you, especially if you're any type of protected class, because they don't want to get sued. And then you're laid off, or you're reorged multiple times and then laid off, right? So there's a game to all this. And if you don't know what's going on with you, what's truly going on with you, this is how you get caught in a bad situation in a tough economic climate. Anyway, if you're hiring now, the bar is really high because not everyone has a lot of headcount for their team. She says, since the start of the year, the tech industry has cut some 198,000 roles. That comes on the heels of 165,000 such layoffs in 2022. At the same time, she notes, companies no longer feel the same competitive pressure to quickly snap up talent that they had earlier in the pandemic, leading to drawn-out vetting processes. Right? So a lot of people, when I made the post the other day, people were like, oh, there's other jobs out there. Okay, there's other jobs out there. But the bills don't stop. Okay? So if the vetting process to get a new job is taking longer, do you really want to play the game of having an attitude about not going in those couple of days? Because if you get laid off, do you know if you're going to get a new job tomorrow? Do you know if you're going to get a new job next week or next month? You don't know that. You don't know if it's going to take you 4 or 6 months, right? Do you have 6 months worth of reserves and also some money for a damn therapist because your anxiety is gonna go through the roof? Like let's think about reality here. Instead of thinking about how we feel in the moment and why we so big and bad and we gonna tell people what we not gonna do, like play this out, y'all. Okay, you don't go into the office, and they say, okay, you don't have to go in. Don't worry about it. Okay, so you stay 100% remote, and everybody else that knows the game start carrying their ass into the office. Okay, time for layoffs. Time for a reorg. Time to trim the fat around here. Guess who going first? The person that's never around. The person that people don't see your face. Okay. At the height of the pandemic, a provider, UKG Incorporated, a provider of human resources, payroll, and workforce management software, hired fast to keep growing. As life has gotten back to normal, some of those hires realized that they didn't actually want to work there. Listen, the company also learned a lesson, she said. Maybe you're not a great fit for us either. That's about to happen. That's also about to happen. Watch. That's going to happen more and more. Maybe so-and-so's not the best fit. We're going to go in a different direction. Okay. The company is now more rigorous about who gets a signing bonus after frequently paying them when the job market was frothy. It's also now firm about FaceTime, taking pains to state up front that new hires have to live near offices. Many employees are required to put in at least 3 days in the office each week. Go into the office, y'all. Go into the office. Stop playing. Clara Broomfield, 27 years old, has been job hunting for 8 months. Since leaving her job overseeing employee training and development at a Los Angeles-based online retail company, she estimates she's applied to 2,000 jobs in various industries. Didn't I tell y'all to stay out of training and development? Didn't I tell y'all to stay out of L&D and all that other stuff? You need to get out of the cost centers of the organization. Where do they make money? You need to get to that part. You need to get the skills to be able to get a role in that part of the organization. Several offers have fallen through, she said, and some companies midway or in the final stages of the interview processes instituted hiring freezes. One company put her through multiple rounds of interviews and test project assignments during a 4-month period before withdrawing the job posting. So now they're getting a lot of free work out of folks. It was common when I last was looking for work in 2019 to have 2, maybe 3 rounds of interviews and maybe do an assignment. But now it seems like we're having an assignment that's lengthy, will require multiple hours of work and 4 to 5 rounds of interviews. And still you have no guarantee that you're going to get an offer. It almost seems like people are posting jobs with no intent to actually hire anyone. As her savings dwindle, Broomfield is growing more discouraged. Some companies where she had interviews months ago have told her they need more time before making a decision, after previously saying they wanted to make a fast decision. Meanwhile, Broomfield recently gave her landlord notice that she needed to vacate her apartment. She said she's resigned herself to staying with friends in LA or moving back to Texas and sleeping on her mother's couch if she doesn't land a job soon. I cried today, she said. Okay, so that's the end of the article. But the reason I call this video the luxury beliefs we can't afford, demanding maximum rights and minimal responsibilities, is because that is a lot of what's going on right now. A lot of people have not identified the shift. It's not 2020 anymore. It's not 2021 anymore. Hell, it's not even 2022 anymore. These companies, things have swung back in their favor. And whether you like it or not, and whether it's fair or not, it is what it is. And this is not the time for y'all to be having these attitudes. Somebody in my post even said, well, why do they need me to come back? They don't care about if I'm happy. And what's the manager doing? That's not what's the manager doing. It doesn't matter what the manager's doing. The manager told you you need to come in here 3 days a week. That's what the organization is requiring now. Ask what the manager's doing when you have an offer letter in your hand and a start date somewhere. Ask questions of the company that you're at now when you already have a new role somewhere. And also, for those of y'all who are going to come on here and tell me about how y'all got it and how your company doing all this for that, that is good for you. But a lot of people who are coming on here and saying that are incredibly seasoned, have 15 to 20 years of experience, and are incredibly networked. Y'all don't come on here talking like this and confusing these younger professionals. Because young professionals damn sure can't play this game. If you are between the ages of 22 and 30, you need to be in the office. Matter of fact, 22 and 36 probably. Especially if you're not well networked. Anybody who's not well networked need to be in the office, period, no matter what your age is. But anybody who's a young professional or starting in a new industry or a new sector or a new type of role, you need to be in the office to learn. Because you have a learning curve that you're not even aware of right now. And you're not going to figure it out sitting in your house looking at the screen. Nothing replaces showing up in person. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how cozy y'all feel on Zoom, drinking tea together and sending each other IMs. It's not the same. You need to go show up. And if you don't, hey, that's fine too. That's your choice. But accept the consequences of not showing up. Because the other thing that happens is when they lay you off, by shutting down your email, when you turn your laptop on and it don't turn on, you can't log in. People go, I can't believe they did that. They didn't even tell me in person. Well, you didn't want to come in person, so why are you complaining now? See, that's what I'm talking about. Demanding maximum rights and minimal responsibilities. It's a different ball game, y'all. So all I'm saying is, look, you do what you want. Y'all grown. But if you're smart and you want to play the long game and make sure that you're in a good position with all this crazy stuff going on, go to the office. Go in there. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Ride this thing out. And when things get better and when things turn back in your favor, play a different game. But right now, understand where you are, understand what's going on, and take care of your business. All right? All right, y'all. That's it. Nikki with Exceptional Conversations. Y'all have a great night. I need to get some sleep. I got a big day tomorrow. Take care and let me know what you think in the comments and let me know your experience. All right. Bye, ladies.